All right, so I think last time we left off reviewing the recommendations. We didn't get all the way through. So I think this week we'll just jump right into the recommendations. Now, Laura, I forget where we left off last time. Should we just start from the beginning of the recommendations and just kind of ask if people have? We'll
Yes,
just kind of.
I don't think we started the recommendations last time.
Oh, we didn't.
No, that's where we were going to start.
No,
So that's official. My memory is completely shut.
you and I have been working too hard, I can tell. Mine's pretty much the same.
That works for me.
So are we starting on 5.1?
We're starting on 5.1.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to open the document that was linked in the agenda, or going back to the original link that Laura had sent us. Didn't work. I got an error message.
So Janet had the same issue. I sent her a zip file. Do you want me to send that to you right now?
Thank you. Yes.
All right. So as I used to say on Saturday Night Live, talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
Well, I'm wondering if you can put up your, can you share the screen with your recommendations? If
I could
people have-
try. So hold on.
I'm sorry that you couldn't open it. It was supposed to be open. I mean,
Oh,
I
Laura-
had the same problem. I
Laura,
couldn't.
they took the document off the site.
I
Yeah.
asked them to leave it and she said it would be fine.
It doesn't seem to be there unless the link expired.
Well, I asked her about it and she said, yeah, it'll be fine. But I didn't try it.
Okay.
Hey, technology.
So I'm not sure I have control of this session, so I'm not sure I can share my screen.
Yeah, Laura, you're the host. So no, all of us can share. Anybody can share their screen. You just
Got
have
it.
to.
Yeah.
So let me sort of get a sense here. Do people want to see the document on the screen, or do they want to just follow on their desks and be able to see everybody who's talking?
Either way, whatever works best.
Yep.
I can do it. I can do it either way.
I've got the document, so
Okay. Tricia, were you able to have you gotten the email yet? Not
No.
yet? All right.
the other thing is that document, you're sending it as a zip file, Andy?
Yeah.
If need be, do you have Adobe? Do you have Acrobat?
I do. I'm on my work computer.
Oh, yeah, but does Andy, do you have it? Because you
do.
can extract just the pages we're looking at, which is page 56 to 63. And that
Yeah.
might go through in an email without being zipped.
Okay. Well, we'll see how the zip works. How do you know this stuff, Sheila?
Yeah, the page numbers aren't on here, so.
I've had to deal with, the page numbers I have Acrobat, so I see it as a document that's got the page numbers on it.
Andy, she's a user.
Ah, I'm getting that.
But it would be better if we had people's. No, whatever.
So,
Why though does my mouse not move between my two screens easily? People, somebody answered that one for me.
It's the Swiss, Sheila.
Oh, yeah, I'm using, there's the screen sharing. Yep, there you go.
And child, yeah.
Could you make it a tad bigger?
Yeah. can you make it
Just,
bigger?
you can do that yourself.
You can?
Now
Yeah, well, I can on my phone. Just expand and contract. Just put your fingers on it.
Andy,
expand
make
and-
sure, open up that and make it a full screen.
okay, hold on. That's a different document.
Yeah.
Ooh, good.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. You taught me something new today.
Wait a minute. Is it? Oh, I see.
Why is this?
Oh, wait a minute. This is taking over the whole screen. Let me see if I can shrink it. No.
Okay.
The
Okay.
file or
There we go.
something on top of everything.
Yeah, so you've just got to make sure what's on top is the Acrobat. So click on it just to open it up or
Yeah.
to make sure it's
Click
on
on
top.
what?
No, nobody else has to do it. Andy has
Oh.
to do this.
Oh, okay.
Andy's
Sheila,
sharing his screen.
would it be less painful if you drove?
Uh,
Oh,
the
no, you're
problem
taking
is I
notes.
have all kinds of markups on mine.
Yeah, me too. But you're taking notes, so I'm not quite sure what you're asking me to do right now.
So all you have to do right now, you're sharing your whole your screen, but you're click on the Acrobat
File
program,
Explorer.
the file. Just
two
no,
You got
just
File Explorer on top, Andy.
yeah,
Mhm.
just close that or
Oh, I'm seeing something different than you are.
oh, that's weird. Okay,
That's better. That's closer.
see if you can make that. If
That's
you
it.
do, you have two screens, Andy, or just one?
I have 3.
Okay, move your
Agenda.
recommendations and stuff to the other screen and just share the one that has the
No, this is weird. This is really weird.
nice screensaver.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing what you guys are seeing. I'm seeing just my document.
Ah,
It depends on which look at.
No, see, that's not what's going on, is that the share is on the second screen, but
yeah.
I'm not seeing what you guys are seeing.
It depends
see
on
it
what screen you're sharing.
What screen are you sharing?
I didn't do it that way.
It's possible to select a particular file that you have open to share. So if you stop sharing and then go back into sharing, when you first click on share screen, it'll give you an option for anything
Oh, yeah.
on your desktop or your entire desktop. So rather than sharing your entire
Is
desktop,
that better?
select the file.
Yes.
There it is.
Okay. All right.
It's like Teams, Andy. It's like Teams.
You know what? At work, we have Teams, WebEx, Skype, like a
Yes.
million ways.
All right, just get us there.
It's page
Skype.
55.
And
See
Can
if
I
it,
say one more thing
There it is.
before
Yep,
we
there
dive
it is.
right into it? In the future, if I send a link and it doesn't work, let me know on the day before so I can resend it right instead of getting to the meeting. And now I find out that some people couldn't access it. Like if I had known yesterday, I could have fixed it. You know?
Okay.
Last
Thank
week,
Good
we
point.
talked about it, but I wanted to refresh again today before the meeting, and I just noticed this evening.
Andy, Andy, at the
Yeah.
top, see at the top in the Acrobat in the second menu bar, it says 42 of 63.
Yeah.
Go to 55. 56. Just type in 56
Why?
because that will take, and then there we go. Here's the
All right.
policy recommendations.
That's the two.
Well, I just thought I'd start with the toolbox, but you guys want to jump right into the recommendations?
The toolbox is the toolbox to me. The toolbox is pretty much everything that I think most of it, at least I think most of us are pretty used to all of it.
All right.
The only thing that I saw in there that's different that isn't actually something that most of us know a lot about is the hawk signals.
So what?
Hawk signals, the ones that pedestrians push in order to activate the lights so that drivers know that there's a crosswalk. And almost everything else is either around Watertown or Oh, the other thing that isn't around Watertown is, okay.
You're talking about the
right.
toolbox now?
Yeah, we're just, but I would say 90% of it's already at use somewhere in Watertown. The only thing is the pedestrian indication,
The
the
leading
leading
something?
pedestrian indicator. That's
Yeah.
not in use anywhere in Watertown that I've seen. It's very much in use in Cambridge.
So,
Yeah, there's nothing here that's different.
Yeah.
Really.
all right, I mean, it's not for us. I mean, the
Yeah.
document isn't really for us. It's for kind of general consumption. So kind of keep that in mind when we're reviewing this.
Who's got some yelling going on?
Maria, tell Tia we're hearing her conversation in the background.
All right, I'll try. She's talking to her aunt. Let me try to tell her. She's got a loud voice.
Well, you can put it on.
And
Mute yourself if you're not talking.
Yeah.
And to you, Janet. You're you became an expert since the last time we Zoomed.
Really?
Right,
Yeah, I
so
did
we're
learn
starting
about
with the
these.
water bottles. There is
Yeah.
something before the water bottles, which is the infrastructure, the words, table 6. Where, start wherever you guys want to. I'm good either way.
All right, let's
Policies
kind
and
of- let's just start with the whole section. So,
Okay. Oh,
we'll-
yeah, there's these recommendations.
Yep. So we can skip over the toolboxes, it sounds like.
Yep.
It's all toolbox. We all know about that. Infrastructure recommendations. This is what you want, Laura?
I got, yeah, if that's what you guys want. That's the beginning of the recommendations is,
Okay. All right,
or
so this-
table 6 is actually, go one more page. Yeah, there you go.
All right. So infrastructure recommendations. Do people have comments around this? Because I do.
I do.
Okay.
Okay, you want to go with yours, Andy?
Okay, so for A, I just had a broad comment. Just I thought it was kind of a general statement. Was hoping to see a little more value there. I'm sorry. I'm trying to coordinate my. Nope, sorry, I'll hold back on that. My comments start with recommendation number 4. I thought that was kind of general. Can't say much more about that. I kind of have a question around recommendation number 5, improve crosswalks and bicycle districts on Belmont Street. My question is, how is Belmont Street critical?
Okay.
Are they talking about Belmont Street on the way to Waltham?
No, I think they're talking about Belmont Street. They're talking about the section that goes between, well, they said all of it, but as part to contribute to a regional network. But I think specifically the section through Belmont and Cambridge and down to Cambridge.
That's already been redone.
Actually, you know, if you think about Belmont Street, at my end of Belmont Street, and there's a significant amount of traffic in Belmont Street coming from Waltham, because it's one of the access ways out to Waltham that is not Trapella Road. And Trapella Road, once you get to Waverly and Mill Street, in other words, over by McLean's, that becomes all hills. So Belmont Street ties into Beaver Street, which goes by the university, Bentley. It goes by Bentley and then heads into Waltham. So it's an access, east-west access point that avoids Trapello and the hills. So I do see a surprising amount of bike traffic on it. And it is in surprisingly bad condition, and most of it is in Belmont, not in Watertown, once you get to the golf course.
So, Maria, I didn't think about that part of Belmont Street. That's a good point. That is kind of a very major route for getting out of Watertown
Yeah.
on a bike.
Yeah.
I've been using it a lot. I guess I assume they were talking about the stretch between Common Street and is it Lexington, where you live? And I was thinking that,
Waverly.
yeah,
Oh,
that
even
doesn't,
Lexington. Yeah.
yeah, that just doesn't seem like, we've never talked about that. That doesn't seem to have any significance for, I mean, you know, I don't know if that's where people would want to expend resources. Now that strip that goes into Waltham, definitely.
Yeah. The part between, let's say, the golf course and Mount Auburn Street is a major east-west route, but most of that isn't. If you're heading west, that's in Cambridge. If you're heading east, it's Belmont and Watertown. But that is that's just a major east-west. A lot of the colleges, their teams ride that route and out Trapello almost every morning when school is here. So it is a major east-west route.
But Maria, it sounds like, it almost sounds like we're talking about three different roads here. You know, there's three different sections.
It is it's different sections, absolutely. Absolutely.
So-
There's the part near Cambridge, the part that is in central Watertown, what I would call central Watertown, School Street area, and then
Yep.
there's the part my way.
So it just seems that this is a little vague. I mean, if we're sitting here talking about how this route has three different sections and every section has a different purpose, it sounds like this recommendation would benefit from some specificity.
That was my point also.
Yeah, sorry if cutting someone off, having a real connection. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can't.
I was just gonna say, I think that I'm most familiar with the part near Cambridge, but I think that the crosswalks in that area, and I know it's not just Watertown's responsibility, but the 73 bus drops people off along that stretch. And right now the crosswalks are, you know, they don't have any lights or anything. So I think there's definitely an area for improvement there in coordination with the other towns, with both in Cambridge and past the Belmont border. The street is Watertown, one that is those other towns.
So it almost sounds like there's at least two different initiatives in this. I mean, one is what you refer to, Amy, as improving the pedestrian experience on the east end of Belmont Street. And Maria, what you're talking about is improving bicycle passage on the western part of Belmont Street. It sounds like two different initiatives kind of conflated into one. So I guess
Yes.
my comment would be, could this be broken out into two separate initiatives? One having to do with the east end of Belmont Street, which has its one set of criteria, and the other initiative having to do with the west end of Belmont Street, which has a different set would have a different set of recommendations. Is that a fair comment, Laura?
Yep,
Okay,
got it.
all right.
I want to go back to section table 6, number 1. Highlight and continue to prioritize pedestrian connectivity in neighborhoods and connectivity between commercial destinations. That is like, yeah, okay, sure we ought to. Can we be a little more specific?
What number are you on? I'm sorry.
Number 1
Number 1.
of the recommendations. Like if you look down, number 4 says improve pedestrian connections in West Watertown, and it gives you some specific things to do or some specific areas to focus on. This one is it gives you a few areas to focus on, but it's so blanket. It needs.
Yeah, Sheila, sorry to jump in here, but I think that I agree with you. I think one of the patterns I saw here where it seemed like there were a lot of recommendations that were suggestions, but they weren't actionable.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, okay, so what do we do about it?
Yeah, it's like a policy thing, but who's going to be responsible for it? Where does this live? I mean, it's nice to say, let's do this, but it will just be forgotten if there isn't some structure to it.
No, and actually, I also did just kind of read through everything today, but then I didn't go back and read a second time. And I mean, she says this in a number of different places.
I
Like
like the
connectivity between the neighborhoods and the commercial districts,
Yeah.
access to the Greenway, Charles River Path.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess, the what is fine, a little more how would be better,
Yeah.
I think.
That might come out more. Oh God, no, I'm spinning here. That might come out more in the infrastructure recommendations. I'm not sure.
But isn't this one of the
Oh,
it's number 1
oh,
of
yeah,
the infrastructure recommendations.
Is policy. Yeah, you're right. This is infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
So
they could
Sheila-
do it. Yeah.
So Sheila, your comment here would be more specificity?
More specificity, or break it out and put it into, specific, break out Watertown, Cambridge. And like, there's an overall policy thing that should go in there, but
That is
either
in the section.
yeah, put it in the policy section, and here in the infrastructure, be more specific. Or break it out into more specific things.
Okay.
Guys, can I interrupt for a moment? Is there a way to make the document more widely available? Because I think some folks who are joining the meeting don't have access to the document. So I'm trying to figure out, how do we make it? Is there a place that we can put the PDF that people can download it from now? while we're
No,
having this?
I can't. I don't know how to do that.
It
I'm
has to be
sorry.
hosted somewhere, and that's unless somebody has a hosting site that they can give access to. I mean, you could upload it to Google Docs, I suppose, and make it available.
Is there someone on the call who's not in the committee that can't get access to the document?
Yeah, that would be me. I just texted Maria. I was just wondering when this was going to become available to us.
It was linked from the agenda, but now I'm hearing that people weren't able to access it.
Yeah.
It was
Well-
supposed to be linked from the agenda, and I'm really sorry. I mean, it's not ready to be posted on the website. It's not, it's still a draft,
Right.
but I did not realize that people couldn't access it from the agenda, and I'm really sorry.
Okay.
No, and I
Well-
would have fixed it, but I didn't know until just now.
So Laura, Caroline, well, we could, welcome, by the way. We could probably just email the zip copy as well. Could we do that?
Are you asking me or Caroline?
Carolyn, would,
Oh, sure. I mean, what do I
we
need
just-
to open it? I don't have like Adobe Acrobat or anything like that.
oh, okay.
No,
Yeah.
if you've got, do you have a PC?
No, that's the problem. I can't, yeah, when you guys were talking about that, I was like, I don't think I can do that. So that's okay. I'm listening. I'm just following along. I can read it kind of barely, but that's okay. Just go on. I didn't mean to stop it. I just wanted to know when.
No, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that it wasn't accessible. I should have checked the link.
Okay, that's fine.
I apologize.
Just go on. I'm just listening.
All right, so are we all set on recommendation 1?
Yeah.
Okay, another one I had was recommendation 6 about a north-south, formalizing a north-south route. I won't read it, but I'll read my comment. I think for this recommendation, they were presenting too many options with too many different objectives that are conflated in one recommendation. The result is confusion, which will lead to inaction. Either establish a priority set of objectives with the corresponding route, or identify a series of objectives and routes as options. I mean, they kind of threw everything into a pot and said, yeah, you got to build a north-south route. And they threw all of these, they mixed everything up. And to me, that's not actionable. It's like, here, either decide this is the most important objective of a north-south route, and this is the route to build to meet that objective, or lay out 3 or 4 north-south routes as options. But the recommendation kind of throws everything into a pot, which isn't really actionable. So that's my comment on recommendation 6.
I agree.
I had the same comment.
Because I think a north-south, to me, a north-south route is really important. You think about connecting schools, all the stuff that's going on in Belmont with that new bike route that they're gonna, the bike path that they're gonna build along the railroad tracks. And we don't have a formal north-south route. So I think it's very, I think clarity is very important here.
Can I ask you a question for those of you who've been on the committee for a while? Do you see the thing, that parentheses, which would require a contraflow lane on Palfrey? Is it Palfrey, or was
Yeah.
it a different street?
Oh, actually, it is a different street because Palfrey is one way. It would be
No.
counterflow going down to the.
No, it's Marshall.
It's Marshall. We were
Thank you.
It's
thinking.
Between Mount Auburn and,
Right.
Yeah, it's Marshall Street.
Yep.
between Mount Auburn and Maria,
It's Marshall Street.
Marshall
Mount-
Street.
Yeah.
Marshall.
Marshall and Summer.
Yeah.
we talked about that in the bicycle committee and they didn't
A
like,
while ago, yeah.
I feel like
Right.
that
So-
wasn't-
so I think it's great if they do it.
Yeah, refresh my memory. Originally, they had proposed Marshall, and then later they wanted to change it to Palfrey, or didn't they change? Didn't they want to change the
They
contract?
did. They did. They wanted to change it to Palfrey, which didn't seem to make much sense because it was
No.
narrower.
Yeah.
Who wanted to change it?
I think it was Public Works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
think it was Matt.
I will say Gideon was much in favor of changing from Marshall to Palfrey. He felt Palfrey.
Oh, I
was
forgot about
quieter,
Gideon.
and-
Yep.
Yeah, it was Gideon. Gideon really wanted to
Yeah.
change the. I mean,
And
he
the
had his
problem
reasons.
with Palfrey is that it is narrow, much narrower than Marshall. It has a heck of a lot more traffic. And it sits across from Irving,
Yep.
which is not exactly the best place to go. And if you're going west, you're not going to go to Palfrey to go west, or sorry, to go toward
East.
Cambridge, east toward Cambridge.
Yeah.
You might go to Marshall simply to avoid the hellish corner, at Common,
Yeah,
but you're not gonna go to Palfrey.
yep. All right. Is everybody good with recommendation 6? Recommendation 7, 8.
If we can talk about 7 in general, because I think they talk about wayfinding in several places. And I'm a huge fan of wayfinding. But it really, when we get to do wayfinding, we need to have them give us what the best standards are, best practices are for wayfinding. And there's really nothing in this document that talks about how you set up a good wayfinding process and what it needs to include, what you need to avoid, and in general, how to make it work effectively. And so,
Can I just say something? As a outgrowth of the parking management plan, we just got a grant to work with a designer. It's gonna help us design a template and also talk about locations. Now, those are gonna be mostly around Coolidge Square and Watertown Square, but we will have a template we can use going forward from that. It's
Laura,
not,
will
paying for
they
sign-
provide best
for-
practices too?
I'm
I
sorry?
mean, really, will they provide best practices, how to decide what to put where and what it should say? I'm just thinking about in a broader, more strategic way, what does wayfinding require so that we can do it in a way that makes sense?
I'm optimistic that it will do that, but,
All right.
working
so
with
Laura-
consultants is always challenging. I'll just say
Yeah, I
that.
agree.
Been through
I
this a
agree.
number of times now.
So Laura, my comment on that would be, that's great news, by the way. So my comment would be, can we include what you just said as part of this recommendation so we have everything in one place? Right, so this disconnect doesn't happen so that when people are looking at
Yeah.
this recommendation, we know that there's other things happening towards that end. And we'd have it all in one place. Would that be-
How would you change that? Just to,
Just what you said, that, that there's a grant that might be able to address this.
Or at
Right.
least partially?
Is that too bold a declaration?
no, it's not that it's too bold. It's just, does it belong here?
Well, I mean, it's nice to have everything in one place because, you don't want to see the recommendation. You don't want one person reading the recommendations not knowing that all these things are in motion. I mean, you kind of
Uh-huh.
want that there,
Right.
right? I mean, it should be one-stop shopping.
All right. I'll see what I can do there. Let me
Okay.
think about that.
Can I make a point in terms of, we were talking earlier about the toolbox, Maria's point about best practices. There's no wayfinding signage info in the toolbox. And that would be a good step, that would be good information to have in there.
All right.
I don't understand what we're doing. When you said would require a contraflow lane on Palfrey Street and you want it on Marshall Street, are we changing this? And if we want it, should we say which requires rather than would require? I mean, are we actually making recommendations that?
That's a good question, Janet. I brought that up because I thought I remembered hearing about that being proposed, but it didn't sound right to me that it was on Palfrey, that what had been proposed in the past. But yeah, well, I mean, we might be changing it if we think that Marshall is the better street.
It is. It has a lot less traffic. It's,
And they
the
said
only
that
thing that's
everybody's
there is the
parking,
senior
right?
center.
It's wider.
It's
Yeah, it's wider.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's flatter.
But I just don't know what we're doing now.
Well, and Janet, I think we have to change 7 to, is it 7?
Yep.
Or, okay, so that we're not talking about Palfrey Street, but we're talking about
No, number
Marshall
6.
Street. Sorry, 6. So we're talking about Marshall Street, not Palfrey. And, we're talking about that's,
Yes, that's a north-south connector.
yeah.
So we're just trying to make it,
Stronger?
Janet,
Yeah.
we're trying to make it consistent with the complete streets plan, but I'm not gonna just change it to Marshall. I'm gonna check first.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay.
That was my thinking.
Yeah,
All right.
I just like requires more than would require.
Okay, good points. Are we done with recommendation 7? Do we want to go to recommendation 8? Any comments there? Gone. Recommendation 9. Do we have any takers? Recommendation 10. Any takers? 9 or 10?
Number 10, I just want to say they put in a good piece in here. They were specific about how to get around Galen Street, which I thought was very helpful.
That was very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very good.
Would
That,
you like-
that surprised me. That surprised me. And
Yeah, because they haven't done this, like, this is exactly what we're talking about on some of these other ones that don't have specifics. Here they give a good recommendation to solve a problem.
I'm kind of wondering if Gideon kind of helped come up with that because he talked about it a while ago. So anyway, all right. Number 11, I've got comments on number 11. I just said, I don't think the way this is written properly reflects the work that's already been done. It sounds like we're starting from scratch when actually all of the design has been pretty much completed. It's a matter of decision-making, prioritization, and funding. We have the Tufts plan from years ago, which forms the basic design. Then we have the study that was done that resulted in the 4 alternative routes through downtown. I can't remember what that was called. It's just that no one had made a decision yet. So I know,
Wait.
yep.
So this, you have 11 and then you have A, B, and C, and it talks A, B, and C are the 3 links that are not finished. So this is, are you looking at this as one?
Yeah,
11.
I'm just saying overall,
Okay.
yeah, overall, they're not talking about the work that's already been done, which I think, you know.
Well, I think they do say that. They say implement the community path link connecting Arsenal Street to Mount Auburn Street via Taylor Street.
And that's the farthest one along,
Okay.
actually, design.
All right.
And then they're saying we need the funding for the final design and construction of the park through the linear park,
Right.
from linear park to Mount Auburn Street.
Okay.
Do you want to read me your comment again, Andy?
No, now that I'm reading it again, I think Sheila's right. You know, it just seemed like a lot of work's been done on this already. You know, I just thought it was kind of important to spell that out, that we actually do have a plan for the complete path. We had those 4 alternatives that were drawn up. So, you know, this is just kind of talking about having to do that. And, you know, I don't know. It just doesn't explicitly mention that, you know, there are design documents that are ready to go. But
Well, sure they're ready to go. They're not at a level of detail where you could build something from them. So, you know, there's one more level of design that needs to happen. Engineering, I would say, really.
right, the engineering piece, but, you know, nothing
Right.
has to be designed.
You know what? I'll tweak that a little bit.
Okay. All right. Any comments on 12? My question though is that we're talking about, you know, I know there's an answer for this. I'm just curious. Signal improvement at Summer Street, at Church Street, identified by members of the public as a school walking route. Are they talking about the high school? Which school are they referencing? I mean, this is Summer Street at
Andy, I
Church.
think it's, no, I think it's Andy. I think it's the middle school.
Middle school.
Yeah. People on Summer Street that will walk toward the middle school.
Okay,
They could also technically walk through the high school, but the younger kids will be walking to the middle school.
okay. All right, I was just curious. Comments on 13?
I thought it was good.
see.
One
13.
of the thoughts I had on 13 was whether or not there's a way that we could get an easement from the school, on Orchard Street, right there, that area, that Victory Field is owned by the schools, right? Or is it, an official park from the town, from the city? Either way, could we get an easement through that area to create a separated bike lane? Is there a way that we could do something different and innovative, even if it is a short stretch? Because a lot of people do go between the high school and Victory Field. Okay, and they have the games. Is there anything we could do?
Well, I have to say personally, I think it makes more sense to move people who are on bikes off Common Street and take the back roads from Common Street to Victory Field and do it with wayfinding.
Well, we could do that too.
Because
I mean, I'm open to anything that will give us. See, that's possible in some ways. But if you're coming from the west side of town, that's just not possible.
That's true.
So I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do between, the middle school, Public Works, Victory Field, to create
So
a separated bike lane?
Maria, can I
And
offer,
there's nothing in here that talks about that. That's the kind of innovative kind of thinking and ideas that I want.
so can I offer something here? And Ethan, help me out here if I get it wrong. But when Ethan and I were working with Alta with the Complete Streets program, they voluntarily suggested a north-south route that would take the contraflow, get you across Church, I think is onto Marion. Marion
Yep.
takes you up to behind Victory Field. You have a bike access through Victory Field. You cross Orchard. So that gets you to Victory Field. And then you cross Orchard and you're at Lowell. And it was a great idea. So is that what you're talking about? Something like that?
Yeah, that's part of it, Andy. It's just my ideas. I looked at these recommendations in general. They were often vague. They weren't. I didn't see anything innovative, anything that said, okay, here's how you put the pieces together. How do you make a program out of this? Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
and how do you do little projects when we can?
I think that was my comment on one of the earlier recommendations about the north-south.
Yeah.
Actually, Alta called it North-South Boulevard, and I thought it was really clever, and I think it solves a lot of problems. And they were very specific about the route. And I actually rode the route, and we rerouted it because I think it was George Street, and one of those streets as you get to Lowell, if you want to go on to Belmont Street, it gets really steep. So we kind of adjusted the route so that the route wasn't so steep. But I thought it was a really clever solution that they came up with, and it was very explicit. They mapped it out. So, I think on my earlier comment about the recommendation about the north-south route, that's what I was thinking about. And it might make sense to be that explicit, to take the Alta suggestion and actually promote that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can find
All
that.
right, I wrote that down.
Okay.
And see, about Orchard, the thing that's interesting to me about Orchard is that there's a huge chunk between the middle school and the Rotary that's publicly owned. So what does that give us opportunities to do that might be a little easier? than when we
Orchard
have to-
Street from the middle
Yeah.
school?
Yep.
Orchard
All
Street
the-
doesn't go to the middle school. It goes,
Sorry, I don't mean the middle school, the low school. From
okay.
the school, okay, all the way to the Rotary. On one side or the other, we have publicly owned property. So is there anything different that we can do, given that we don't have to deal with private property? How do we begin to build the pieces and help think about what we can do?
Well, that's kind of a general question.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like when I'm looking at this now that it needs to be, there need to be like, it needs to be organized like streets, priority streets. Which are the priority streets that we want to look at instead of the more, implement bicycle facility on Orchard Street? Maybe it should be organized as Orchard Street and access to bikeways, and I don't know.
Well, Janet, Laura, one of the ways you might think about that is if you think about what the priorities are that we want to accomplish, then how do we take the recommendations and fit them into those priorities? Which is basically what you're saying. It doesn't have to be by street, but I think if we think about it by priority, north-south priority, wayfinding priority, some of the other pedestrian priorities, how do we figure out what the priorities are and then put the recommendations for them?
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with that. I think I found the recommendations in general just kind of hard to follow because they were jumping around between a lot of different topics. And I think organizing them and sort of in the way that you suggested, they try to talk about these implementation strategies, but it's still sort of all over the place. So I think grouping them and having more focused recommendations within those groups would help it a lot.
Yep, I agree.
Prioritizing.
Okay. We got to keep it moving here, folks.
Sorry,
20.
I was answering a work email. Sorry about that.
All right. All right, well, let's just go on to 14.
Anything on 14?
I think that's nice and specific.
Yeah.
It was
It is.
roundabout there, but I think that's already been implemented, right?
Oh, fantastic.
Yes,
What's been
So-
implemented?
the roundabout.
The roundabout, yes.
I use it every day on my bike. It's fantastic. I
Yeah.
never would have gone through that intersection on my bike. Now I go
Yep.
through there every day. Number 15. I've got nothing.
There's nothing about bike facilities on that section of School Street. It says implement reconstruction of School Street. But then there's nothing about, okay, is there a plan somewhere? What, okay. That's is there any plan out there? And if it
Yeah,
is,
I
does it
think there
have
is.
specifics?
It says it's need a help. Did they do something?
Yeah, I think there was something that they were supposed to do that they didn't do.
I think it was part of the I cubed thing that obviously isn't really off the ground anymore.
Right, it's not gonna happen.
Okay,
All right.
I remember
Uh,
it first time around too. Yeah, reduce local bicycle stress on Walnut Street.
All right. Number 16, about Walnut Street. You want to hear my comment?
Yes,
I would really, 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 really like to see this. That's a great suggestion. It's one of my priorities.
So you mean Walnut Street all the way to Mount Auburn? You
on
don't
Walnut
mean
Street, to be
out.
like to Green Auburn
Yeah,
Street.
Walnut Street. So imagine you're coming off the Greenway on School Street and you want to get to Mount Auburn Street. It's a major route.
Right.
Yeah. And
Um,
I don't think in any way, shape or form with what's been happening on Walnut Street, we were given any consideration whatsoever at all. It's like
Well,
cars at
I do have to
cars in the
disagree with
morning,
that.
cars at lunch,
Wait a
cars
minute,
at
wait a minute.
dinner.
In our fantasy.
There's a lot of pedestrian improvements on Walnut Street. There's not a lot of bike improvements.
Hardly any. And yet it's the easiest way to get to Mount Auburn Street, okay, from the bike path or from the community path. And
So what about the connection? it depends on where you want to go on. I mean, if once the community path continues down to Irving Street, that will actually make another easy connection. It depends on where you're going on Mount Auburn Street.
Well, I got to say that when I commute to work, I use Walnut Street every day. And it's dangerous because cars are parked kind of willy-nilly. So you're
Yeah.
forced to weave in and out of traffic, and the cars go fast. So, you know, and there's a high school there. And if we're trying to encourage kids to ride their bikes, you know, I'm not sure that we'd want to expose them to that kind of risk.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I think 85 Walnut Street is one of the stupidest things we've done in a long time.
I agree.
And I just cannot fathom what, you know, what the town was thinking, what the council was thinking.
About what? Wait, Maria, what are you talking about? There's
85
a lot
Walnut.
of really good things that are coming out of that.
Maria, be
Uh,
specific.
There's no bike lanes, no segregated bike facilities coming on Walnut Street as a
I-
result of what we're doing.
It's not
At
wide.
all.
It's not wide enough for that.
We will never have overly wide streets. And we have to figure out how to deal with that. Okay, we have
So-
to start thinking about what are the trade-offs we want to make as a community so that everybody can be safe in Watertown, not just cars.
So I'm going to jump in, and I'm just going to say, I think that we're down to what? It's 8:30 now.
Yeah, we
So,
got to keep going.
yeah, this is kind of retroactive. I think for the purposes of this exercise, we probably have to look more forward than backwards. So I might recommend that. So so
Go to 17.
there's no okay. So 17. Anything on 17? 18. Comments on 18. 19.
19, my thought was we need specifics with the map. It says new access point to the Charles River from Arsenal Street through private development. I mean, basically, we have a plan that the town's supposed to implement. And I don't know why that isn't mentioned here. It's just way too vague.
Yeah, and it's not clear. I mean, we've almost built out the connector, which gets you from, you know, the Greenway to the Charles River that goes through Arsenal Park. You can go Talcott. There are existing connections now, so they don't mention those. It is vague.
Yep.
What would you like to see there, Sheila?
I would
What-
like to, this number 19. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to see specifics of the plan that is promoted between whatever the mall is and the town by going through the park. I'd like to see that mentioned. I'd like to see, you know, it just all needs more specifics.
Again, there's nothing
Didn't we
actionable here.
Plan that at some place to go, the way it was to go through the park
Yeah,
and then down, and then
yeah.
DCR
Yeah.
said then they take it from there,
Yeah,
get across.
that's almost done. I mean, that's a given. We're going to have that, and then, like I said, you can always use Talcott. And then there's that
And then
there's
go-
that connection they built on the west side of the new garage. So there are, and then there's Louise Street. So yeah, you're right, Sheila. I'm not quite sure what they're suggesting here.
Yep.
Yeah. Should we move on? Is that enough for 19?
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
All right, 20.
Yeah, I had a question on 20, actually. It was more about how they classify things as medium, short, and long-term. And I couldn't understand why this was medium term. This seemed like short-term. That's something that we might be able to do. Improving sidewalk and pedestrian crossing infrastructure. That's, I don't know, that didn't seem like something that would be hugely expensive or would take, we couldn't do sooner rather than later.
And that's a
Okay.
good point. Either, to get this done short term, you could either include it on the DPW maintenance plan, or you could include it in complete streets funding. There are ways to get this done short term. That's a good point.
Okay. Keep it
all right.
moving. Almost done with this section.
21. Well, we got 21. Everybody okay with that? I have another one here. I don't know how valid this is, but I know that when we were talking about the connector, Gideon kept talking about a possible east-west connection that would run parallel to Arsenal, but would go through Arsenal on the Charles. It would go through the Arsenal Yard. It would go through, the Home Depot. So he had this vision of sort of an off-road east-west path that would parallel Arsenal, and I don't see that in here, and I don't see any reason to not include it. So I was just wondering if somebody could kind of add that somehow. I don't know if you check with Gideon, but I thought it was a nice concept. If I had an alternative to walking along Arsenal Street, I would take it.
This one here on 21 on Grove Street, for example, that's a major access into Watertown from the multi-use path. And that's it's not an overly steep, but it's a steep uphill and a fairly fast downhill. So one of the questions I had is there any way that we could work with the condo association there, or the condo, to see if we could take another 4 or 5 feet, okay, next to the sidewalk. So especially for the folks going uphill, which are going slower than the traffic, we could build, a sidewalk or an additional path, okay, so the folks coming up would at least have that's just, to me, that's just the most dangerous part, is the up, because of traffic. You're
Yeah.
going down, you're going pretty much with traffic, but when you're going up, you're going much slower than the traffic. But I don't know
Maria,
that they thought about that.
yeah, when I commute, I use that every day, and you're right. You're talking about a bike track going uphill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not, so your comment would be to,
Is there any way that we could work with the owners of the
no.
property?
well, right
Because
now,
they're not using it.
well, right
I
now, we're
mean,
not
it's
looking,
the hill.
yeah, right now, we're not looking to build the solution. We're looking to see what verbiage would you use to include that suggestion?
To me, that's, working with owners at key intersections or key areas where they have excess property, for example, or where we could get an easement. All right, that might provide a way of solving significant problems like this.
I was asking, what would you say? What would your comment be specifically for this recommendation?
For this one is to either get an easement or work with the owners in that the condo association there, to see if there's any way that the town could build a track next to the sidewalk to make it easier for people going uphill without affecting pedestrians.
All right.
What
so-
location are you talking about?
Grove Street.
The
Down-
access from Grove to Green
Yeah.
Hill.
All right, that's infrastructure. The next section is policy, program, maintenance, funding, and enforcement recommendations. Kitchen sink. My
Yeah.
first comment is, the bottles are kind of cute, but it's easy to read if you actually use the words. I have to keep going. What does that mean? Oh, maintenance. What
Yeah.
is?
Yeah.
And if there are only 3 letters, it'd be one thing, but there's 6 different letters, so it's hard to remember which letter stands for what. So it would actually be easy to read. I mean, they can keep the bottles, just put the word in the bottle or do something, because it was a little annoying to me to have to keep bouncing back and forth and saying, what does I mean? So, yeah, I get annoyed. All right.
I had the same problem. I couldn't keep track of what they meant.
It's a cute idea, but unfortunately, it's not necessarily functional. All right, sorry. I'm scroll crazy here. All right, recommendation 1. Any comments?
I think it could use a for whom integrated maintenance, like who's going to do it.
DPW.
Yes, but let's say that.
Integrate maintenance by DPW. Is that what you're
Yep.
saying?
Tila, is what you're saying is that we don't know who's responsible for most of these
Yeah,
items in this section, that maybe we need to know who they're recommending should be the doer
yeah.
or the
One of my
responsible party.
notes through much of this was, who's doing this? Who's doing it?
Okay, recommendation 2, comments?
I'm sorry. That is the vaguest thing in, like, it's like vague.
It's like maintain your house, my
Yeah,
recommendation. Yeah,
it's like, okay, that's nice.
yeah. Is there any specific comment that we can add to that, or it's just
Too vague.
space filler? All right, then we'll move to 3, work with residents and neighborhood associations. So I think Bob Shea already commented on this. There should be mention of the formalized organized efforts currently underway, I think. Whatever Bob said, I'll go along with that. Recommendation 4, any comments? Number 5. Number 6.
Who? I'm gonna sound like an owl. Who?
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually, isn't that baked into the Complete Streets program? That decision-making process? I thought that was part of it.
And would that include criteria? In other words, how do we evaluate, make it, the decision? How do we evaluate what it is that we're doing? So I'm assuming that when they're talking guidelines, they really mean criteria.
Develop criteria for decision making. Oh God, my computer is spinning.
But
Oh.
I do think this decision-making process is baked into the Complete Streets program. Should we move on?
Yep.
Ah,
No?
Laura's having
I'm just-
technical problems.
I am.
And we might have to stop soon because there's a couple other items that we kind of need to at least mention. So Laura, should we switch over at 1/4 or?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay,
I mean, it's just a question of whether you want to meet again or to finish this up, or how many numbers are there here? Oh, there's 3 pages, 4 pages. Yeah,
6 pages.
5, 6. Yep, we're not going to get through this. So
right.
I think I'm going to have to ask her to reorganize it a little bit anyway. So maybe we should just put it to rest for right now,
Okay.
and maybe it'll come out better next time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for the input. All right. So if I can find the agenda, even though I think well, one of the items, I'm going to jump to I'm not quite sure what Laura called it on the agenda, but the COVID related strategy discussion. I know, Amy, you had kind of initiated it with an email. Janet followed up, a few other people followed up. I guess the question is, it's a great idea. How do we want to move forward? I think the more obvious way to move forward would be with a subgroup. I don't know, how do people feel about that?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. All right, so I'll just come out and ask Amy, would you be willing to manage that whole subgroup, that process? Would that work for you?
Amy? Andy, do you want to get off of share screen so we can see each other again?
Sure.
Good idea.
Okay.
Amy?
We lost name. No, there she is. Did you hear the request? We
Oh,
can't hear you.
You might be too far away from the microphone.
Laptop mics aren't always the best.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was unmuted and I had to mute again and unmute, and now it's working. I said, sure, that.
Okay. We are still having a little trouble with you. So I just need to say that no more than 4 people can meet without it being a public meeting that needs to be noticed and everything. So keep it to 4.
All right, so who would want to be part of the subgroup?
I guess that wasn't a problem.
All right, Amy, I'll do it with you.
What will the subgroup meet about? I'm sorry. I think I was
Yeah, why
multitasking.
don't you say what it's?
Oh, Laura, are we going to say something?
I was going to speak for Amy, but let's let Amy speak if we can hear her.
I can try. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Just about general issues related to COVID and what we can do in Watertown to create more space for people to walk and bike, and while maintaining social distancing. I think there's a lot of examples of things that neighboring towns have done. So just thinking about ways that we can maybe help make that happen in Watertown.
Possibly create more space for things like outdoor eating so that restaurants could potentially open up with more space.
Amy, I'll work with you on that.
Good.
I really been following the news on that.
And Laura, I understand that planning and DPW kind of talked about this at some point.
We talked about sidewalk dining. We did not talk about closing streets for pedestrians or bicycles. So an important piece of that, if you wanted to really dig into it, would be to make some recommendations about locations where you think that would work or be useful, or where you'd like to see that happen. I don't know about, we just really started on the sidewalk dining thing, so we'll see if we get how far that goes.
Lauren, do you know the planning folks in Somerville? Are you, is our town, do we talk to them?
Yeah.
Is there a way to find out how they put together the program of figuring out what streets they could close to car traffic so that they could put together a connected bike and pedestrian walking and riding streets that went east to west and north to south? Is there a way to find out more about their program from a professional perspective? What criteria that they use? How did they go about thinking about this? How did they engage the public?
Yeah, I'm sure someone could do that. I'm not volunteering to do that right now. But maybe one of you on the committee could do that. I mean, you can find that out from them too. I could give you some names. It's
Okay,
just, it's a little bit, it's a big project, and I don't like to say I don't have time, but I'm trying to make something out of this bike ped plan, and I have a few other things going too. So,
yeah, Laura, if you would send me some names
okay.
and I'll check what I've got already.
Laura, did
just-
you say it was the planning committee that's working on the eating outside on the sidewalk?
It's just a couple of staff people, planning and DPW right now. There's no committee working on it, as far as I know. I think it's the council that kind of suggested it. Carolyn, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm very interested in this conversation, actually.
Are you, the council, I heard, I wasn't listening to the meeting, but I heard that the council was interested in exploring that.
Yes, we're very interested. I think Mark Sideris mentioned it. We're trying to find ways that we can make restaurants more profitable right now because they're losing so much money.
Yeah,
And if there's any way we can do it through, closing parts of streets or, sections of streets, that would be great.
uh-huh, okay.
So you are talking about streets, closing streets.
But closing streets for sidewalk dining is different than closing streets for biking and walking. Unless we were to close whole sections of streets.
Right. And we need to think about that. I mean, I don't think we can take anything off the table. I think we need to expand, our concept of what works best for the people in this town, and how do we promote, and how do we change thinking, and how do we get it. It's like, I think about it in the same way that a lot of businesses couldn't imagine working from home. And then when they were forced to do it and figured out a way to do it, they discovered it could work for a lot of people. It doesn't work for everybody. I'm not saying that, but I think for many people, have computer, can do my job. And we need to think about our streets sort of in that same way. What is this street really good for? And how do we make the best of that opportunity?
Laura,
So I just have kind of a question. Has anybody thought I'm talking like I'm at work now, but what would a deliverable look like? What are the options here? What are the possibilities for deliverables? Would it be a letter to town council with recommendations? Would it be, it doesn't require an answer. It just a thought question.
I think a letter to town council would make sense. Here are some suggestions about places that we think would be feasible for closing to make.
And would it be more like an action plan and not just suggestions like, oh, well, it'd be more of an action plan?
Well, all we can do is suggest. We can't
Right.
give, unfortunately, no
Well,
action.
We'll all get deputized.
We could have a pilot program, right? We could come up with,
Exactly.
and I think the town council would be happy to have something like a committee working on this, right, Caroline?
Yeah, I think I was actually, as you were talking, I was wondering what exactly we would have to do and what the process we would have to go through to implement this, whether we'd have to send it to committee or whether we could vote on it just directly.
To close the street,
Yeah.
I think, I keep thinking, doesn't the traffic commission have to have a vote? on that?
Oh, maybe so. Yeah, you're
I mean,
actually,
they're not the policy making group. They're not going to decide it's the right thing to do, but I think they do have to vote to close the street. I think, unless, state of emergency, the rules could be different, but
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm going, I don't know what the process is going to be for this, but I think you're right. The traffic commission would vote on that.
All right. If other people want to participate, I guess just reach out to Amy. Amy, if I can be of any help, let me know. You know, I should be able to put some time in if you need some help. So last item on the agenda, I could use some help from the group. We kind of got a request and I'm not sure what to do with it. And Laura and I, Janet was there. A few weeks back, we attended a meeting of Watertown Faces Climate Change, and it was a great meeting. There's a lot of opportunity for synergy there. That went well. And later in the week, there was a meeting with the subgroup that had to do with schools, the school revitalization program. And out of that group, they came to us and requested if we could put a letter together with recommendations for bicycle and pedestrian advocacy around the school revitalization program. So I tried to figure out what is that? What does that mean? It's all just kind of very vague. So what I did, just to sort of try something out, is I actually put a letter together. And in the letter, 2 parts to it. One was general recommendations about good design, where pedestrians and cyclists have easy access to the entrance and they have showers and that kind of thing. And then I went to the bike plan early on, and I pulled out a lot of the school-related recommendations and added those into the second section, which was dedicated to specific recommendations. And those specific recommendations were broken down by school. So that's what I did. I have a letter. It's not polished or anything, but to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure how to proceed. I don't know. I mean, should I just ask the committee, ask you guys to review the letter, and if it looks good, figure out who to send it to? You know, I definitely want to partner up with Watertown Faces Climate Change. I just don't know how to navigate this. I mean, any thoughts around that? Or, you know, at the very least, what I can do is after the meeting, I can just sort of send a letter and let people look at it. And, you know, maybe that's what has to happen. I can send a letter and see what people think. I don't know. It's an odd situation.
I feel like that a letter is like a first step, because this group hasn't developed a position yet. So we can't, it's premature to send a letter from the bike head committee.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe we could take a look at the letter and then discuss it at the next meeting.
yeah, and to be clear, I can't write a letter and send it. It has to be the committee, right? I'm not the committee. So, you know, the letter was just kind of a running up the flagpole and see if anybody salutes kind of thing.
Yeah, that's great. Very helpful that you put that together, took the time to put that together, because that will provide a really kind of great baseline for our discussions of it.
All right, so I can just send it out and we'll talk about it next time we get together.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, particularly having Ethan read it, who always writes
Yeah.
legal and very elegant letters.
Yeah, happy
But
to.
I think, does it have to be exactly what we want? It's just the idea of, you know, what needs to happen when you think about the schools and how to get kids there on their bikes and walking rather than getting dropped off by their parents in cars.
Okay, I mean, the timing is good here. You know, the bike plan's available. Watertown Faces Climate Change wants to partner with us. You know, the timing's good here. I just don't know how to navigate this. So I'll do that. I'll send a letter out, and next time we could talk about it. Laura, does that comport with?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's good. So I guess before we adjourn, I think we need to discuss if we can meet again. And of course, the onus is on Laura again. So thank you very much for pulling all of this stuff together, Laura. I know it's not easy.
I'm sorry that I think we talked about July 7th as a possibility, which is also a Tuesday.
Oh, where's my calendar?
Amy, that's good for you?
That's the guidelines of the proposal, of the draft.
Say that
I
again.
don't know yet. I don't know yet. I have to talk to them.
Well, I mean, do they have some parameters for when they want to get this done?
Well, it's kind of overdue at this point, but because we can't have a public meeting, there's not really a rush.
Okay, good.
Are we ever going to be able to have a public meeting again?
I know. That's how I feel. Amy, did you shake your head? No, you couldn't do the 7th?
Oh, it's good. It's good.
It's good. Okay.
I was shaking my head about not having any plans all summer.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, I mean, I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. I think what I'll do, Sheila and Amy, I'll write a letter to the people that I know in Somerville, and I'll put you to CC on it. I'll tell them to send whatever they have to all of us, and then I'll let you guys take the next step. I'll probably end up looking at it too. It's just I'm hesitant to take on another big project right now.
Totally understand. That would be great because it helps to get a
Mhm.
referral from.
Yeah.
When they know.
Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay. All right. So next meeting will be July 7th via Zoom, right?
Probably. Unless there's a miracle.
Who's Zoom and who?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So is that a
All right.
wrap?
That's a wrap. We're actually done on time.
Oh, is everybody doing okay? It's good to see you, Oliver.
Agreed.
Yeah,
We could,
I'm doing good.
With the kids.
Spending a lot of time together.
Bye, Tricia.
But I love
Good
those.
night, everyone. Take care.
They're great.
Deborah,
Bye.
Carolyn, thanks for attending.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thanks,
Bye,
thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
bye, everyone.
Thanks for the hard work.
Bye.
Bye.